Illuminati. The Illuminati is often described as a secret organization working behind the scenes to control everything in our world. From politics and economics to the media we consume, even the music we listen to, believers think the Illuminati has its hand in it all. Their ultimate goal? A new world order. A single, authoritarian world government where nothing happens without their approval. Conspiracy theorists argue that the Illuminati hides its symbols in plain-sight triangles, all-seeing eyes, cryptic hand signs flashed by celebrities. Every time a world leader makes a decision, or a pop star drops a chart-topping single, some believe it's all carefully orchestrated to push society one step closer to this hidden agenda. And here's the eerie part. Whether you believe it or not, the idea of powerful elites pulling strings behind the scenes isn't so far-fetched. Corporations, political dynasties, and billionaires already hold a level of influence that shapes the direction of our world without us even realizing it. While we can't say for certain if the Illuminati truly exists, the theory remains one of the most persistent and captivating. And if it's even half true, it could mean humanity's future has already been written. New World Order. The New World Order, or NWO, is one of the most infamous conspiracy theories of all time. At its core, it's the belief that a secret group is working to create a single, totalitarian global government, a system where every country, every person is under one rule. Believers say this shadowy group uses politics, wars, and even economic crashes to destabilize nations, making people desperate for a solution. And when the chaos reaches its peak, that's when the New World Order steps in, offering control disguised as salvation. Some claim the NWO agenda is hidden in plain sight, world leaders mentioning global unity, secret meetings like the Bilderberg Group, and corporations that seem too powerful to challenge. To those who believe, it's all part of the same puzzle, a gradual takeover of humanity's freedom. While no proof has ever confirmed the existence of a true New World Order, the idea itself taps into something real, the fear of losing independence to forces too big for any one person to fight. Hollow Earth. The Hollow Earth theory flips everything we think we know about our planet upside down. Instead of being a solid ball of rock, it suggests Earth is hollow, with a massive interior space hidden beneath our feet. Depending on who you ask, this inner world could be one gigantic cavern, or an entire ecosystem of its own, complete with an atmosphere, oceans, forests, and even civilizations that have thrived in total secrecy. Some versions claim entrances to this world exist at the North and South Poles, and that governments have been covering them up for decades. Believers point to strange anomalies, unexplained compass readings, missing explorers, and ancient myths that describe hidden realms beneath the Earth. To them, it's evidence that our world might be more complex than science admits. While mainstream geology dismisses the Hollow Earth as impossible, the theory remains one of the most fascinating. Because if it were true, it would mean an entirely new world exists just below the surface, waiting to be discovered. JFK assassination. On November 22, 1963, President John F. Kennedy was shot and killed in Dallas, Texas. The official story, told by the Warren Commission, says Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone, firing 3 shots from the Texas School Book Depository. But for decades, people have doubted that version of events. One of the most famous theories is the grassy knoll. Eyewitnesses and even the infamous Zapruder film have fueled claims that a second gunman fired from a different angle, suggesting a coordinated attack rather than a lone shooter. Other theories go even deeper, pointing at the CIA. Kennedy had clashed with intelligence agencies, especially after the Bay of Pigs disaster. Some believe his assassination was less about one man with a rifle and more about powerful forces making sure Kennedy's presidency ended on their terms. Another theory that leads into our next topic is that Israel did it because Kennedy was applying significant pressure on Israel and their supposed nuclear weapon construction. Israel conspiracies. For decades, Israel has been at the center of some of the most controversial conspiracy theories on the planet. Believers claim the nation has had a hidden hand in major global events, from allegedly framing Michael Jackson to playing a role in the assassination of JFK, and even being the force pulling the strings behind world politics. These theories go further, pointing to rituals and symbolism. One example often cited is the Western Wall in Jerusalem, the holiest site in Judaism. Conspiracy theorists note that every U.S. president in modern history has visited and touched the wall except John F. Kennedy. To believers, this is more than coincidence. They see it as a sign of secret allegiances or of a power dynamic hidden from the public. Those who follow these theories argue that Israel's influence extends far beyond its borders, quietly shaping decisions that affect entire nations. In their view, every major headline, every shift in global power could be traced back to a hidden agenda. A recent example is the assassination of Charlie Kirk, where just weeks prior, he spoke out on Israel.
This is the closest thing to the Holocaust that any of us have lived through. But the fact is now Bibi and the Israeli hard-right government has a mandate, I gotta be careful the way I say this, they're gonna try to ethnically cleanse Gaza.
And well, you know the rest. 9/11 conspiracies. On September 11, 2001, the world changed forever. 4 hijacked planes brought down the Twin Towers in New York, struck the Pentagon, and left Flight 93 crashing into a field in Pennsylvania. The official story: 19 terrorists led by Osama bin Laden carried out the attacks, but almost immediately, alternative explanations began to spread. To believers, 9/11 wasn't just a terrorist attack. It was either allowed to happen or orchestrated from within to serve a hidden agenda. These theories range from controlled demolitions to insider trading, secret insurance deals, and government foreknowledge. Controlled demolition. Many argue the Twin Towers, and later Building 7, didn't just fall, they collapsed too fast and too neatly for fire and plane impacts alone. Eyewitnesses reported hearing explosions before the buildings came down. Conspiracy theorists point to molten steel, claiming jet fuel fires shouldn't have reached the temperatures needed to melt it. Official investigations reject this, saying the steel lost strength rather than melting, but the visuals of the collapses continue to fuel doubts. World Trade Center 7, WTC-7, a 47-story building, collapsed hours after the towers despite not being hit by a plane. Developer Larry Silverstein's PBS interview, where he said they decided to pull it, has been interpreted as an admission of controlled demolition, though he later said he was talking about evacuating firefighters. Larry Silverstein and insurance. Silverstein had signed a 99-year lease on the World Trade Center complex just weeks before 9/11. He insured the towers specifically against terrorism. After the attacks, he argued each plane strike counted as a separate incident, resulting in a $4.5 billion payout. To believers, that's too much foresight to be chance. Silverstein's absence. That morning, conspiracy theorists also note that Silverstein, who reportedly ate breakfast at windows on the World in the North Tower, almost every morning skipped his routine on September 11th for a dermatologist appointment. It was the first time he'd missed it. A coincidence many find too convenient. The Pentagon strike. Flight 77 allegedly hit the Pentagon, but skeptics point out the hole left in the building looked too small for a Boeing 757. There was little visible wreckage in the immediate aftermath. Some go as far as to claim it wasn't a plane at all, but a missile or a planted explosive. Flight 93. Officially, passengers fought back and crashed the plane in Pennsylvania. Some believe it was shot down by the military instead, citing the unusually wide debris field as evidence. Foreknowledge and insider trading. In the days before 9/11, there was a spike in put options, essentially bets against the stock prices, of American Airlines and United Airlines. To some, this looks like financial proof of prior knowledge. Official probes found no direct link, but the suspicion lingers. Government/military involvement. NORAD's delayed response is another point of contention. Some say the military was ordered to stand down. Others claim 9/11 was a false flag operation designed to justify new wars and sweeping government powers. They point to documents like the Project for the New American Century, which spoke of needing a new Pearl Harbor to galvanize U.S. power abroad. The bigger picture. Conspiracy theorists argue that 9/11 paved the way for massive changes. The Patriot Act, expanded surveillance, wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, and trillions funneled into defense and security. To believers, the attacks were the perfect pretext for the rise of the military-industrial complex and an expansion of U.S. power overseas. Whether you see these claims as shocking truths or elaborate myths, the 9/11 conspiracies remain some of the most persistent and emotionally charged of our time. A reminder of how one day can change the world, and how its mysteries still divide it. The Mandela Effect. Imagine being absolutely sure you remember something, only to find out it never happened that way. That's the Mandela Effect, when large groups of people recall the same detail incorrectly, with total confidence. It's named after Nelson Mandela himself. Millions swore they remembered him dying in prison during the 1980s, only to discover he was released in 1990 and went on to become president of South Africa. That collective false memory became the phenomenon's most famous example. Common examples. The Mandela Effect shows up everywhere. People insist the children's books were the Berenstein Bears with Dash Stein, but it's always been Berenstain. They quote Star Wars as, "Luke, I am your father." The real line is, "No, I am your father." The Monopoly Man? No monocle. The Fruit of the Loom logo? No cornucopia. Pikachu's tail? Always yellow, never with a black tip. For those experiencing it, the shock feels like proof of something bigger, a glitch in the matrix, a ripple in reality itself. And that's where the theories split. The explanations. Psychologists say false memories happen because our brains fill in gaps with associations, or because misinformation spreads and gets reinforced socially until it feels like fact. Misquotes, memes, and pop culture amplify the effect. But fringe theorists have a different answer: parallel universes or timeline shifts. In their view, these false memories aren't mistakes. They're evidence we're sliding between alternate realities where things really were different. Whether you see it as science or science fiction, the Mandela effect has become one of the most mind-bending modern mysteries. Proof that even our own memories might not be as trustworthy as we think. The Pyramids of Giza. Rising from the desert for over 4,500 years, the pyramids remain some of the most mysterious structures on Earth. The largest, the Great Pyramid of Khufu, originally stood at 481 feet tall, a monument so massive that even with modern technology, recreating it would be a challenge. Mainstream archaeology tells us these were tombs for pharaohs, built during Egypt's Old Kingdom by tens of thousands of workers using ramps, sledges, and sheer manpower. But for centuries, people have questioned that explanation. The scale, precision, and alignments of the pyramids have fueled some of the most famous conspiracy theories in history. Alien involvement. A classic theory argues that ancient Egyptians couldn't possibly have moved such massive stones with primitive tools. Instead, extraterrestrials either built them or handed humans advanced technology. This ties into the ancient astronaut idea, popularized by authors like Erich von Däniken, that aliens guided early civilizations, lost technology. Others believe the Egyptians had hidden technologies long since forgotten. Machines, advanced energy tools, or even sound-based levitation to move blocks weighing tons. If true, it suggests human civilization was far older and more advanced than we've been taught. Mathematical and astronomical alignments. The pyramids line up almost perfectly with Orion's belt. The Great Pyramid's dimensions encode pi, the golden ratio, and even measurements of Earth itself. To believers, this isn't coincidence. It's evidence of advanced knowledge far beyond the supposed limits of the ancient world. Power plant theory. A more fringe claim suggests the pyramids weren't tombs at all, but energy devices. Massive power plants harnessing Earth's natural energy, or even wireless electricity. Some tie this idea to Nikola Tesla, who allegedly tried to replicate pyramid power in his experiments. Occult connections. Conspiracists also point to pyramid symbolism today, like the pyramid and all-seeing eye on US money, linking it to the Freemasons, the Illuminati, or the New World Order. The idea here is that the pyramids preserved secret ancient knowledge still used by elites in modern times. The Las Vegas shooting. On October 1st, 2017, Stephen Paddock opened fire from the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay Hotel, targeting a crowd of thousands at the Route 91 Harvest Music Festival. He unleashed more than 1,000 rounds, killing 60 people and injuring over 850. It remains the deadliest mass shooting in modern U.S. history. When police breached his hotel room, Paddock was already dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The official story? He acted alone. No confirmed motive. No ties to terrorism. No manifesto. Just chaos. But almost immediately, theories began to emerge. Multiple gunmen. Videos taken from the crowd seemed to capture gunfire from different directions, with varying rates of fire. Some claimed the echoes were too irregular to come from a single shooter high above. Believers argue there were other gunmen on lower floors, or even in nearby hotels. Authorities investigated, but their conclusion was firm. Every shot came from Paddock's suite. Belt-fed weapon theory. To many, the sound of the attack was suspicious. Some audio clips suggested a consistency closer to military-grade belt-fed weapons than semi-automatics. The official explanation points to bump stocks, which simulate automatic fire by harnessing recoil, but skeptics believe the sound profile proves otherwise. Second shooter, inside the hotel. Gaps in security footage, conflicting witness reports, and delays in the police response fueled speculation that a second shooter may have been inside Mandalay Bay. Some believe the timeline was later adjusted to smooth over discrepancies. ISIS claim of responsibility. Shortly after the massacre, ISIS claimed responsibility, saying Paddock had converted to Islam months earlier. The FBI dismissed the claim, finding no evidence of any terrorist connection. But to some, the bigger question remains: why would ICE take credit for something they had no hand in? Cover-ups and missing evidence. Conspiracy theorists point to withheld body cam footage, questions about how Paddock managed to haul dozens of rifles and thousands of rounds into a hotel suite, and shifting stories from both law enforcement and Mandalay Bay security. To them, these inconsistencies suggest something larger was being concealed: financial and political motives. Theories also extend to motive. Some say the attack was used to push for gun control legislation, especially since bump stocks were banned afterward. Others believe the chaos benefited arms manufacturers, insurance payouts, or even the casino industry. Paddock's background. Perhaps the biggest mystery is Paddock himself, a wealthy gambler with no criminal record, no radical ties, and no clear ideology. To some, that makes no sense. Theories suggest he was a patsy, caught in the middle of a weapons deal gone wrong, or tied to intelligence operations that spiraled out of control. Denver International Airport. Opened in 1995, DIA is the largest airport in the United States by land area, and one of the strangest. It cost nearly $5 billion to build, ran way over budget, and its design has baffled travelers ever since. To most, it's just an airport, but to conspiracists, it's something much darker: underground bunkers. One of the biggest theories is that DIA sits on top of massive underground tunnels and bunkers. Some believe these serve as doomsday shelters for government elites, or even secret military bases hidden from the public. The endless construction delays and skyrocketing budget are often cited as proof of something being built below ground. New World Order headquarters. At the heart of the conspiracies is a granite capstone inside the airport, featuring a Masonic symbol and a dedication to the so-called New World Airport Commission. Problem is, no one can trace that group. To believers, it's not a mistake. It's a clue that the Illuminati or New World Order built DIA as their global headquarters. Apocalyptic artwork. Inside, murals stretch across the walls depicting war, death, environmental collapse, and eventually, a strange version of peace. Officially, they're about hope and harmony, but conspiracy theorists see something else: coded messages about an orchestrated apocalypse, with DIA as the starting point for a new world government. Lucifer. Outside stands a 32-foot blue horse statue with glowing red eyes. Nicknamed Lucifer, it killed its own sculptor when part of it fell on him during construction. For many, the horse isn't just art. It's a symbol of the fourth horseman of the apocalypse: death, watching over travelers as they arrive and leave. Runway design. From above, DIA's runways appear to form the shape of a swastika. Airport officials say it's simply the most efficient layout for takeoffs and landings in any wind condition. Conspiracy theorists aren't convinced. Occult and alien theories. Then there are the more extreme claims. Some believe the statues, murals, and hidden facilities are tied to occult rituals. Others insist DIA is an alien hub, with secret bases beneath the runways and connections to government cover-ups of extraterrestrial contact. What keeps the conspiracies alive is how undeniably strange the airport feels. The size, the art, the design choices, everything seems coded, like there's something you're not supposed to understand. Even DIA itself has leaned into the rumors in marketing campaigns, joking about lizard people and underground bunkers. But instead of putting theories to rest, it only makes them grow. Denver International Airport may just be an airport, or as believers claim, it could be the front door to something far bigger, a hidden world of power, secrecy, and control right beneath the surface. Antarctica. Earth's southernmost continent, a frozen landmass buried under ice sheets nearly 3 miles thick. Unlike anywhere else on Earth, it's governed by the Antarctic Treaty System, a pact signed in 1959 that bans military activity and reserves the continent for scientific research. Only a handful of rotating scientists and staff live there at any given time. To most people, it's a barren wasteland, but to conspiracists, Antarctica is one of the most mysterious places on the planet. Secret military bases. Some believe hidden bases exist deep under the ice, built by powerful nations or even Nazi Germany during World War II. The most famous piece of evidence is Operation High Jump, a massive U.S. Navy mission in 1946-47. Officially, it was for research and training, but theories suggest it was actually a failed battle against hidden Nazi forces, or worse, something alien. Nazis and UFOs. A popular story claims that after World War II, Nazi leaders escaped to Antarctica, building underground fortresses for advanced weapons and even flying saucers. Some versions go further, linking Nazi science to alien technology supposedly discovered beneath the ice, the Hollow Earth connection. Antarctica is also tied to the Hollow Earth theory. Believers claim there's a massive entrance to an underground world hidden at the South Pole, home to advanced civilizations that have lived in secrecy for millennia. Old polar exploration myths and fringe science only add fuel to this idea. The Antarctic Treaty. To conspiracy theorists, the treaty itself is proof of a cover-up. Why else, they ask, would the entire world agree to ban private access to one of the last unexplored frontiers? To them, the treaty isn't about science. It's about hiding alien bases, ancient ruins, or forbidden land. Pyramids in the ice. Photographs of pyramid-shaped peaks poking through the snow sparked another theory, that Antarctica once hosted an ancient advanced civilization. Scientists call them nunataks, natural mountain formations, but believers insist they're evidence of man-made pyramids buried under the ice. The Dyatlov Pass incident. In 1959, 9 experienced Soviet hikers led by Igor Dyatlov set out on a trek through the frozen Ural Mountains. They never returned. Weeks later, their campsite was discovered, and what investigators found has haunted researchers and fueled conspiracy theories for decades. Their tent was slashed open from the inside. Belongings were left behind, untouched. The hikers' bodies were scattered across the snow, some half-dressed, barefoot in sub-zero temperatures. Several had gruesome injuries, crushed ribs, fractured skulls, but no external wounds. One victim was missing her tongue, another, her eyes. Evidence suggested the group fled in panic. But why? Avalanche theory. In 2019, Russian authorities concluded a slab avalanche caused the disaster. They argue that a small wall of snow collapsed onto the tent, forcing the hikers to cut their way out and flee into the night. Critics, however, point out that the slope was shallow, the snowpack seemed stable, and the injuries didn't fully match an avalanche scenario. Military tests. Another theory is that the group accidentally wandered into a Soviet weapons test, perhaps parachute mines or chemical experiments. Witnesses in nearby areas reported strange lights in the sky, possibly flares or rockets. The blunt trauma injuries, fractured bones without surface wounds, could align with shockwaves from explosions, infrasound, and panic. Some scientists suggest katabatic winds produced low-frequency infrasound in the pass. Infrasound can trigger panic, nausea, and disorientation. This could explain why the hikers, in an irrational state of fear, fled their tent without warm clothing. But it doesn't account for the severe injuries, KGB or espionage. A darker theory claims some of the hikers had ties to Soviet intelligence and that the tragedy was a botched operation. Missing documents, restricted case files, and rushed burials have fueled suspicions that the state covered up what really happened. UFOs and the paranormal. The glowing orbs in the night sky have also been linked to extraterrestrials. Some conspiracists argue the hikers encountered a UFO, their bizarre injuries and missing body parts the result of otherworldly intervention. The dead internet theory. Imagine logging on and realizing most of what you're reading, watching, and even arguing with isn't real. That's the core of the dead internet theory. The idea that sometime around 2016 or 2017, the real internet died. In its place, a controlled artificial version run by bots, algorithms, and hidden systems. AI-generated content. Believers say the biggest clue is how soulless the web feels now. Articles, videos, even comments on social media all start to sound the same. The theory claims most of this is machine-generated. Content farms and AI systems churning out endless posts to mimic real people and flood the web. Disappearance of old communities. In the early 2000s, the internet was a patchwork of forums, blogs, and niche websites full of unique personalities. Many of those spaces are gone. In their place, a few giant platforms, YouTube, Reddit, Twitter/X, TikTok, dominate. To conspiracy theorists, that's no accident. Fewer platforms are easier to control. Government manipulation. The theory goes even deeper. Intelligence agencies, they claim, use bots to flood the web with propaganda, steer conversations, or distract from real events. Instead of silencing dissent outright, the system drowns organic discussion under oceans of fake engagement, fake people, and NPCs. Some believers argue that many accounts you interact with online aren't real at all. They're AI-driven NPCs, or sock puppet accounts. This explains why arguments feel scripted, why debates loop endlessly without resolution, and why so many profiles seem to pop up and vanish without a trace. Censorship by replacement. Instead of deleting controversial posts, the theory says the system buries them under spam and bot replies until they're invisible. Post something too sensitive, and it's instantly swamped by irrelevant content, making the truth impossible to find. Corporate illusion. Another angle is pure profit. Corporations inflate engagement numbers with bots to boost ad revenue and traffic. The modern internet, according to this view, is an illusion of activity, a giant feedback loop engineered to keep people scrolling, arguing, and consuming. The man from Torrid. In 1954, a man arrived at Tokyo's Haneda Airport carrying a passport from a country no one had ever heard of, Torrid. Immigration officials were baffled. The man was confident and calm, insisting Torrid was a real European nation. When shown a map, he pointed to where Andorra is, but said he'd never heard of Andorra in his life. His passport was filled with legitimate-looking stamps. He carried currency from multiple countries. Everything about him seemed real, except for the nation he claimed to be from. Authorities detained him at a hotel under guard while they tried to figure out what was going on. By the next morning, he was gone, vanished without a trace, along with his passport and documents. No one ever saw him again. Parallel universe/multiverse. The most popular theory says the man slipped into our world from a parallel Earth, one where Tord exists as a real country. His disappearance was simply him returning to his reality. Time travel. Others believe he was a time traveler from a future or alternate timeline. His passport a relic of a world not yet created or already lost. Government cover-up. Some conspiracists claim officials realized what they had and quickly buried the evidence. If true, his documents and records may have been erased to prevent public panic about alternate realities. Urban legend/hoax. Skeptics argue the entire story may be nothing more than a modern myth, born from distorted retellings of passport fraud cases. There are no verified official records outside conspiracy circles, only stories repeated online and in books.